Cloudcast Media. Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. It is a good day when my longtime friend, Dave Grundies, is in the studio talking about all good things that he has done. How much have you been on the show?
I think this is 4, Drew.
I think it's 4. Very good. When he hits 5, he gets a special button that says that I know meat and Tink. That's what he's going to be on. We're joined by Noel Tink. Dahlke is the director of C4ISR Systems, business development for BAI. How you doing there, Tink?
I'm doing great, Drew.
Good to have you in there. And his buddy Pete, never call me late for dinner, better known as Meat Collins from business development, capture manager for COLSA Corporation. How you doing there, Meat?
Fantastic. Thank you.
Very, very good. And all 3 of these gentlemen, thank you so much for your service in the U.S. Navy and now doing great things moving forward. But Dave, we'll start with you, Ruehlin Associates, and your transition Instructor Associate, correct?
I'm lucky enough to be one of the half dozen guys who teaches from the Book of Ruehlin to transitioning officers and enlisted, senior officers and enlisted, on not how to not where the jobs are, but how to prepare themselves, how to go through the process of readying themselves for a transition.
Right, exactly. So what got you into this? You had to go through a transition, correct?
I took the course 25 years ago, and I said, I don't need a job. I can teach this. Well, the truth is I didn't have the street scars that I have now to be able to teach it and have some credibility with the students. But I thought right away that this is something very necessary, and I wanted to be part of it. And it took me that many years to get Mr. Admiral Ruehlin to get me to work for him.
Very good. So what is the Book of Ruehlin?
The Book of Ruehlin is the basic stuff that we all know that military officers and enlisted aren't necessarily versed on, like how to network, how to negotiate, how to interview, how to dress. The things you have to do in the business world that we didn't have to do in the Navy. Go wear your whites, wear your blues, put a flight suit on.
Now, is that because you folks knew this very orderly? You had a procedure, what you did in your careers, 25 years or whatever it was, in this aspect of it, and now it's like this is a totally new ball game. So you need to be, here, this is how you do it. How does that work?
These are very successful individuals. It's an up-or-out organization. I mean, you don't join up and stay for 20 years and drink coffee just to get the pension. You've got to keep promoting.
Right.
And you're very good in the swim lane they're in. But the outside swim lane is pretty different. And I sort of need to teach them the city mouse, country mouse, street smarts.
Okay. So we'll start with you on this. Tink, how long were you in the Navy?
I was in the Navy for 30 years.
30 years. Again, thank you so much for your service. Where were you stationed? All over the place?
Yes, worldwide.
Worldwide. Okay, very, very good. You have a family of folks that were in the military?
I do. My father was actually a career military, senior enlisted. He was a Master Chief, served for 32 years. So kind of, I guess, a little bit of my DNA.
Is that right? Yeah, my dad fought in Guadalcanal. Which, as you folks know, is a little bit of a tough battle, to say the least, on this. And I was a doctor, and then they did make a career out of it. But when you're at Guadalcanal, it almost seems like it's a career in this. How about you, Meat?
So 28 and a half years. Most of my actually all of my operational tours have been here in San Diego, with 3 penalty tours back in the Pentagon to get me, the cred to come back.
Right, exactly.
As far as family, my father was actually in World War II. He was very young when he enlisted as a gunner's mate, but did about a short stint there. But that was basically the tread of military experience.
He was in the Pacific, I take it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And of the 9 kids, of which I'm number 9, only 8 and 9. My next older brother, Matt, he and I were the only 2 that actually came in the military. He was another naval aviator for the Marine Corps, and myself for the Navy, obviously.
Right. We'll start with you on this, Tink. So, like what what Dave is saying. So, when did you start the process of, okay, I'm going to be retiring after 33 years? Did I wait till it was 32 years and 364 days before you started thinking about this, or did you do it 2 years before you were retiring? I'm going to be ready for this. When did you start thinking about it?
Well, first, thanks for giving me the extra 3 years. I did 30 years.
30 years. Oh, good. Guess what? You know what? They owe you 3 years on this. Can we talk to the Secretary of the Navy next time he's at the SD Mac breakfast about that? Sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah.
Great question. I started probably two and a half years before retirement.
Right.
Something really my dad taught me, early on is everybody has to have an exit plan, an off ramp, because if you don't, the Navy will have one for you, and you better have one before someone else tells you.
Right.
So I really started thinking long and hard about it. When I was the CEO of a Naval Weapons Station, Seal Beach, that's when I had the opportunity to take the Ruehlin seminar, which Dave was the instructor.
Right.
And that really, I think, jump-started my motivation on what my next career and life after the military will look like.
Right. What thing did Dave tell you that was something like, boy, I didn't realize this, where, it would be, man, I should have known this, but I can't believe I didn't know it, and this is what's so critical. What was that?
I think for me, the aha or the light was... Right. For the first time, you have to learn how to market yourself.
Right.
The Navy's always kind of told you where to go, what line to stand in, right? And like what he mentioned, if you do well in the Navy, performance, the Navy does tell you where to go, but you have a lot of great opportunities to continue. So I never really had to think about, boy, I hope I get promoted, or I hope something good happens for me. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to get out of the Navy maybe earlier than I thought. So taking the Ruehlin seminar, I think is a good eye opening from how do you market yourself? How do you not feel like you're, bragging, but telling industry that, hey, I'm available, and I'm interested in hearing all, avenues beyond my military career.
Yeah, you're spot on that. We're chatting with Noel Tink Dahlke, director of BA Systems, joined by his colleague Pete Meat Collins at COLSA Corporation, and Dave Grundies, an instructor at Ruehlin Associates, talking about the seminar on helping with the transition.
Hey, Drew, can I jump in a second?
Yeah.
Tink said something really, really important.
Sure.
You're in a military organization. You're wearing a uniform that's all about the organization, the good of the group, the good of the whole is what's important. Talking about yourself without bragging to somebody is a difficult thing. It's not what we do, and that's a big transition that you need to be able to market and talk about your skills.
Yeah, well, you guys are, one thing I've been just honored, I've been going to the SD Mac breakfast for a long, long time, as Dave knows, and the humility of you folks who have done so many great things for all of us, for so many different reasons, whether you're protecting us on our soil or abroad and all that business, and you do it with phenomenal humility. We get excited. Hey, I wrote a great memo today, right? And the next thing you know, this person here was in charge of 30,000 troops. Are you kidding me? And it doesn't even say a word. So I certainly get where that comes from. Was that hard for you to meet, to try to sit there and say, how do I sit there and shine a light on myself? That's not easy to do.
Absolutely. It's one of those things that, being a good leader is being humble.
That's right.
And trying to change gears to where you need to market yourself and raise the level of, hey, I've done this, I've done that. We don't like to brag about ourselves, and that's in many ways what you kind of need to do, but on a particular scale that isn't bragging, if you will. So how to market yourself is pretty darn huge. Just to say the same point that Tink just did, that's exactly what Dave brought up to us as far as how to actually get into that, how to do your elevator speech, how to get into all the market stuff. So what you're actually talking to, you go in with eyes wide open, so you're not just kind of going in cold and trying to sell something that you may not be, or to the wrong person. Right.
So how much of the skill sets and the duties you do at the COLSA Corporation tied into what you did in your 28-year career in the Navy?
There's a big one.
Right. We got 5 hours.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't tell you that.
So, when you go into business development, a lot of it really boils down to they're trying to hire you for your network of who you know, and can you actually get in the door or get the conversation. And it's amazing how all the people you got exposed to and everything else, all of a sudden don't necessarily want to answer your phone calls.
Wow.
Or they will. And, it's, the combination thereof. But the networking definitely flows directly into that. And that was a huge piece of the Ruehlin course, is that it's all about not just your current network, but how do you build the next one? How do you continue to, motivate that along and keep asking questions? Make sure and get a random interview with somebody. Like, can I ask you tell me about yourself. Tell me about what's big on you. And how do you disarm them that way? And keep going in those details. And that's how you both build your network, your friendships, and other things beyond, which has really blossomed a lot of different things from people that I didn't know before that I do now that have been a huge help in this career change. And a lot of the stuff that I brought forward as far as let's just say the operational experience of understanding all the different challenges and, things that are right, wrong, or need to be pressed forward. A lot of that still goes into the contracting world as well. And as far as how do you steer that along to be able to get after what you recognize as a problem and try and solve that along the way.
Right. We are chatting with our friends Pete Meat Collins from the COLSA Corporation, joined by his colleague Noel Tink Dahlke from BA Systems, and the Transition Instructor Associate par excellence, Dave Grundies, Ruehlin Associates. He made me say that, by the way. Again, it's written on the notes here. Drew, you better be saying this. And all seriousness, talking about helping, the transition. Do you only work with the officers in this program?
No, we're like USAA Insurance. We started out with officers only, and now we do senior enlisted also. And the mix of the two in the same class, no uniforms, first names only, no ranks, it's pretty powerful. It's pretty neat to see.
Yeah, when we come back from break, I want to talk more about this on the transition, because whether you're making a transition from the military to civilian life, or your civilian life to civilian life, those things that you're teaching, okay, and then certainly I want to ask, Tink and me about would be really apply to almost anything in that aspect of it. Communicate. You do have to sell yourself in 2023. Maybe a little bit different than you did in 2019 or 2009 or whatever the case may be, and then. One of the things that always fascinates me when I meet folks like all three of you, certainly leaders in your military life and leaders now in your civilian life, was when did that aha moment you talked a little bit about too, Tink, where, I need to be maybe a little aggressive in telling people, here's what I need to do and all this business, and I don't want to feel like I'm steamrolling somebody in this aspect of it, but you know what? They need to hear my leadership in this. One of the things I've heard, Dave, and we'll talk about this when we come back from break, is that, God, I don't want to step out of my lane, okay? We know that in the military, they're lanes, right? This is my lane, okay? Now, leaders we know have to do different types of things, but I've got to be maybe a little reluctant, where for me, what a shock, right? I'm never afraid to step out of my lane. I get bitten a lot of times on it, but sometimes that's what you need to do. So maybe we'll talk more about that as well and give some advice for Dave, those folks who are thinking about transitioning, how they can get a hold of you or chat with Tink and Meat also and get some good feedback. How's that sound?
Sounds good, Drew.
We're going to be right back with another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, doing wonderful things for San Diegans for more than 60 years. We will be right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. As you're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union and this very cool Mission Fed studio and Scripps Ranch. And Mission Fed, as many folks know, just doing wonderful things in the community and have been for more than 60 years. Joined by Dave Grundies. He's a Transition Instructor Associate for Ruehlin Associates. Joined by two of his colleagues, Noel, Tink, Dahlke of BA Systems, and Pete Mead Collins of COLSA Corporation. Both Tink and Mead had gone through the coursework. Was Dave one of your instructors?
He was.
Right, and you still talk to him?
Occasionally.
They got a job.
Yeah.
Funny part is we'll run into each other at the shop, the mechanic shop over in La Jolla, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, there's all kinds of networks.
I think that's fantastic. And Dave, you've been doing this for how long?
Well, officially about 6 years, but I've been sort of helping people transition for a long, long time.
Right, exactly. So, one of the things we were chatting about right before break was, trying to, sit there. Listen, I'm expected to do X, Y, and Z maybe in the military. This was my focus. Here was my lane, and all those. Start with you on Tink. Was it hard to do that, to say I can't get out of my lane, or not at all?
I think it's you have to think about, like you say, the lane, right?
Right.
One thing you learn in the military is how wide is that lane? Right?
That's right.
Left and right lateral limits. Then kind of know how to play. So then you can make decisions. Going into the civilian world is saying, how hard is it to think about it in that way? I don't think it's hard. I just think it's different. I'll leave it at that. It's a different lane.
Right.
I do know that in the civilian world, the priorities are a little different, but I'm fortunate to work for BAE where I'm continuing to serve the warfighter. So for me, the transition and that bridge wasn't very wide, right? I'm not doing something that I feel the Navy didn't prepare me for. So it's really just understanding the new rules of the game and understanding the new lane. But there are still lanes that you have to, think about.
Yeah, right. You feel the same way on that, Mead?
Absolutely. And a huge piece of that is, we were kind of talking about this beforehand as far as, the key question that leads into the whole thing is, what do you want to do?
Right.
What do you want to do? Which is a really, really hard question to answer because, frankly, we've spent a career serving and having a mission defined for us that we have a huge piece that it folds into that gives you a sense of self-meaning, self-worth, and you know where you're going with it.
Right.
So that next step of what do you want to do is a huge transition piece. And as you kind of look at that and go, okay, if I move outside of this lane, to use the terminology, the amount of prep time and the amount of personal investment to get into that ups the game, and it also ups how much time you need to really devote to it if you want to shift gears that far away. So if you want to do that, you got to think about it and start building a network early so you can be successful in that transition. A lot of this stuff really goes down to, well, what do I feel comfortable with and what do I want to do? Personally, still wanted to give back to the warfighter. Felt there was still a need for a lot of things that I had personal experience with that I could still contribute and influence and try and help solve some of those problems that we continue to see no matter what.
Drew, I think it touches on a really important concept of the transition course, in that you've done a lot of things that are transferable. And a lot of people think, what could I do? Who would pay me to do anything?
Right.
And you've got a great set of skills, and the fact that you can transition these things, the networking thing, people think that's sort of a dirty word. Working for myself, it's like you've networked your whole career for your sailors, for your commands, and now you just need to turn the focus a little bit onto you, and people are able to relate to that a little better.
Well, and there's a skill behind it, the networking, and just not showing up. It's being an unbelievably great listener. That you really have to be attuned to who am I meeting with that, put in my little computer back here. So now at the next meeting, I run into Tink at SD Mac, or you meet, and so forth, and maybe there's a connection I have that's going to help what you're doing at BAE or COLSA or whatever the case may be. And it takes a while to get into that, let me have my tentacles up. And I've always maintained, Dave, one of the great attributes of an executive director of a nonprofit or a CEO of a for-profit is really looking to see at those constituents and how can I help it. There was a lady I worked with. You might know who she is, Dave, Cindy Gomper-Graves.
Yes.
Yes, phenomenal. Cindy Meat and Tink was the executive director of this South County Economic Development Corporation. And I ran into Cindy when I was working in charge of community and public relations for the UT, which is at the county administration office. She was the perfect executive director for the South County EDC. She made sure that at every one of her mixers and events, she knew every one of her members and would know who's coming in new and would sit there. And I knew this first experience because one of the clients I worked with, I had joined the South County EDC. And every time they go to a meeting, Cindy would go, oh, God, you know what? It's VMA Communications, who I work with. They would go, you need to go ahead and meet Tink, or you need to meet over here. They got a new program. And they were blown away with, how does she keep this in her mind? There's 500 members of this organization, for God's sake. But that's where the networking comes in. How do you train yourself to do that? How do you teach yourself to do it? Or you just do it?
That's a great question. Does that come from your DNA? Some people are better at it than others. Some people transition better than others. Some people just absolutely won't do it. My SEALs have a real hard problem talking about themselves, bragging about themselves. I mean, the SEAL emblem as the eagle has his head lowered because they're very humble. I mean, that's beat into them.
Right.
Different people do it easier. I think everybody in the end will come along, but some people just aspire to it more naturally than others.
Right. We were chatting with Dave Grundies. He is a transition instructor associate for Ruehlin Associates, joined by two of his, I guess, I'll put in quotes, students, so to speak. Just a wonderful folks that have done great things in the military, now doing things in civilian life. Noel, Tink, Dahlke from BA Systems, and Pete Mead Collins from COLSA Corporation in this. So I'll put you on the spot a little bit, Tink and Mead, on this. So they know you've gone through Ruehlin Associates in this aspect of it. So how would you sell what Dave had taught you and you'd seen to somebody else who's transitioning? What would your pitch to them be? Why is this important?
I think it's important because, like you all alluded to and directly mentioned, is for the first time you really have to think about yourself and your family. And what Meat had mentioned, is you have to do some reflection before you sign up for Ruehlin. You can't kind of just go in there and say, all right, I'm a blank canvas, teach me, right? You got to kind of go in there and have an understanding of who you are, what do you think it is that you want to do, and then from there, allow Ruehlin to mold that, right? They're not going to go there and cookie cutter tell you, you must do this, this, and this.
Right.
So it requires a little homework on your part. But you do that, you go into that course, and you walk away now with homework. Right? What is it now I want to do and apply? Some stuff in Ruehlin I directly used, the networking, a year out, answering the critical, thought-provoking questions of who are you? What is it you want to do? And the other piece is where do you want to do it? That does matter, right? My family, my wife gets 51% of the vote. And so there's a balancing there, right? Of what, because for the first time, you actually have a choice.
Right.
That's the enlightening part. And having a choice comes with a lot of responsibility and thinking. So that's what I would sell, that Ruehlin will help get you through that, where they'll help you think through things, and they'll give you a toolbox of things, not necessarily have to use all of it.
Right.
Some of it you may put away, never use. Some you put away and bring it back out, dust it off, and go, yeah, this is actually helpful. So that's my advice, is really do some soul searching, think about what it is that you think is important to you, and then you walk into that class.
Right. That's good. How about you, Mead?
He nailed it.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, I would also add the key piece there is toolbox. And a huge portion of that is it's not the only toolbox, but it's, filling the stuff in, filling the blanks, because you don't really know what you don't know. And as you get more exposure to this, it keeps adding more to it and adding more to it. Ruehlin does a huge piece in terms of starter kit. Here's what you need to get after. Here's what you need to start building up. Here's what you need to think about, and start building on that. Now, there's other pieces to follow up with as far as not only self-reflection, but there's other organizations and other people to talk to, and that's all part of having the conversations with as many people as you can to help shine the light on what you really need to get after.
And we talk about keeping that toolbox current and handy because your next job might not be your last. More than likely won't be. This first transition is pretty daunting, but it could happen again, and it won't be quite as painful, but the tools will still work.
Well, and to sort of jump on what Tink and me were saying, and a little bit you too on that, Dave, is that it's about continuous improvement. And if you got that in mind that, okay, I did this, I learned this from here, how do I continuously improve? Whether it's networking or whether it's speech, whether it's communication, whether it's doing whatever the case may be. And it obviously sounds like that's exactly what Ruehlin talks about in that aspect of it. And that's sort of a motivation for almost anybody. I've been doing this show for 17 years. It was before it was called podcasting. It was called internet radio. I won't listen to myself because I go, who would want to listen to that moron, for God's sake, And trust me, both Meat and Tink goes, he's right. No, they didn't say that. They didn't. No, they're thinking it, but they're just not saying it. No, but in all seriousness, is that you just constantly want to find how you can improve on this thing here, and getting feedback is just so critical. So here's my last, part of this, and we'll start with you, Dave, and Tink, you and Meat can add to it. Talk about how, boy, you better have some thick skin. Of course, if you're in the military, you have thick skin, right? But if you better have thick skin in the civilian life too, and really pay attention to feedback. Talk about that.
Well, we talk about it's only business, and the interview process, which is a zero-sum game. You might not be the one who gets picked, and you need to be prepared to move on and keep doing that sort of thing. But the whole thing has been pretty rewarding to me. It's the most rewarding job I've ever had, to see the lights come on out in the classroom, or to see successful guys later and down the road. It's a pretty wonderful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Tink?
Yeah, I think, you have to be prepared to life's challenges, no different than what you were doing in the military, right? Not every mission is a success.
Right.
But if you plan, from it, then you can learn from it. And then hopefully the next time it's better.
Right.
Civilian world, same thing. Yeah, you're spot on. You have to have thick skin, but you have to be willing to learn from that, be open-minded. And then, like we were joking outside before, the interview is, I'm trying to set an example for these people. Well, sometimes, everyone thinks example is the good example. There's also bad example that you'll learn from.
Yep.
So failure is also a learning point, teachable moment, and it isn't always all about success. So continue to go after things, whether it's in your transition, you're looking for that job, or once you land that job, things aren't always going to go your way, but just the skills, I can't emphasize enough, what we learn in the military, being flexible, adaptable, and overcoming, still hold the day in any organization.
Well, and I'll throw Loyal out there. There's a lot to be said about that, about that you're going to go through a brick wall. You guys do that in the military, and you have to, because everyone depends on you, right, in this aspect. And, I think we could do a much better job in the civilian world in this aspect. It's not about you. It's about, the person that's sitting right next to you, whether you're in a classroom, whether you're in a desk, whether type of the job, that is on that. And how about you, Meat on this thing? Listen, you guys, just again, thank you so much for your great service in the military. Now, what you're doing now, but having that opportunity to we learn more from our failures than we do from our successes. Correct?
Oh my gosh, yes. And a huge piece of that is that you're kind of sitting with 3 naval aviators here, so we've all had the ready room mentality of what we had to grow up with and take the hard knocks.
Right.
And a huge piece of that is the mission debrief. And how you deal with the mission debrief is, especially in the ready room, if you go ahead and fess up to, I screwed this up front, you're forgiven. So it really goes into being hard on yourself before everybody else is, because if somebody else calls you out on it, it isn't forgiven, and you're going to get nailed for it over and over again. So that's where a lot of the pieces come in, as far as, you're going to fail, you're going to screw up, you're going to have all these problems, but you basically look back on it, reflect, figure out how you can change it, how you can improve, and go back after it. Now, going through the interview process and trying to deal with, hey, I would really like to get this, and, you fall short. Okay, take it as a learning moment and share those learning moments, because the holder of the gouge better be a purveyor of the gouge. So it always comes back to just what Dave's doing right now, is sharing his knowledge through the Ruehlin course with everybody who's coming behind him, and making sure that, hey, you can learn from my mistakes, or here's what worked for me, here's what I struggled with. take it for advisement, use it in your own toolbox.
Yeah, Dave, you're so right. These two are just top shelf guys for so many different reasons in this aspect of it. And both the feedback you have, literally we could talk about this for another 2 hours. There's a lot more learning that people can have, whether, again, they're going military to civilian or civilian to civilian job. But one of the things that you said is just it's so amazing that people don't do it. And it's so successful. When you say, I messed up, my bad, I'm going to do better next time, it disarms everything. And the fact that people are so reluctant to do that, is just blows me away. And doesn't necessarily yet admit, that, that's, you didn't do something wrong on it. It just takes the situation somewhere else. So just great advice. Dave, any final comments?
Yeah, you said something that piqued me. It wasn't like I went through a big Rolodex and picked my 2 most successful, wonderful students. As you remember, Drew, you said, "Hey, why don't you bring a couple guys to the podcast?" And these 2 guys happen to be in the SD Mac breakfast. I mean, they're just a couple of guys who've been through the course and gals too, who've done really well. I mean, and the truth is, Ruehlin has made a difference for a lot of people.
Well, listen, if they're reflective of all this, then you guys can come on anytime. Tink and Meet, what an honor. Thank you for your service. Thank you for coming on the show and sharing some of this great advice. And maybe somewhere down the road, we'll have you back on. How's that sound?
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Drew.
Dave, always good to see you, my good friend. And we will look forward to having you back on when you're back from your trip to Spain, huh? What do you think?
You're going back to see the old Rhoda deployment site and see if it's changed.
All right, so that sounds good. We've been chatting with Dave Grundies, a transition instructor associate for Ruehlin Associates, joined by 2 of his quote students, Noel Tink, Dahlke of BA Systems, and Pete Meet Collins from the COLSA Corporation. I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, doing great things for San Diegans for more than 60 years. We hope you enjoyed the show.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.